today with Bhutalayo. Bhutalayo Bhutapatir Ahoratramaninditaha. Bhutalayo Bhutapatir Ahoratramaninditaha. So Bhutalaya, he is the Alaya, he is the abode of the Bhutas. What are the Bhutas? There are five Bhutas. And this is very different from what in Kannada we call as the Bhuta, which are ghosts. But in Samskrita, Bhuta refers to the Pancha Bhuta, Prithvi, Apas, Tejo, Vayuhu, Akashaha. And they technically also are the respective elements which are in the lower five chakras. What are they? The Mooladhara, which is the basal chakra, corresponds to Prithvi Tattva. And maybe some other day we can delve deeper into the science and art of these chakras. But to just briefly give some cursory knowledge, there is the earth element in the lowest chakra, the basal chakra, which represents material desires. So that is called the Prithvi Alaya. The Mooladhara is the Prithvi Alaya or Bhu Alaya. The second one is Prithvi Apaha. Apaha is water or fluids, which is present just behind the genitals. So the Mooladhara is present at the base of the spine and near the buttocks. So which represent the material and very animal instincts, which is basically reproduction, survival, which means it controls hunger, nourishment, and sleep. Whereas the second chakra, which is the apas, which is called the swadhisthana, represents the slightly subtler forms of material desires, namely love, lust, and anything which has creativity in it is represented in the swadhisthana chakra. So which is apas, as water, as fluid, and it is also very significant because it comes just above the urinary bladder. So that is the region of apas. Then further up is the Manipura chakra at the navel, called the solar plexus, which represents ambition, hunger, desire. Again, a subtler form of material desire, but now it is hunger. We say fire in the belly, right? So exactly at the belly, we have ambition, growth, a desire to expand, desire to make it big in life. All of that is in the Manipura at the navel. And that is also the place of jealousy. So we say jalan, right? Pet me jalan in Hindi, I think. And so ಹೊಟ್ಟೆ ಉರಿ ಅಂತ ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲೂ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. ಹೊಟ್ಟೆ ಯಾಕೆ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಉರಿ ಹೆಂಗಿರುತ್ತೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ because that chakra actually is responsible for jealousy. You see, in most of our vernaculars, we are unknowingly using Vedic terms and Vedic notations. That is also the place of fire. And jalan also comes from the word jwalana. Jwalana means is flame, is fire. Jalan ho raha hai, so that the fire of jealousy. And that is the Manipura. And further up is the abode of Vayu. We have touched upon this, which is Vayu represents compassion, movement, any movement. And that is exactly located at the heart, where cardiovascular activities are happening, pumping of blood, pumping of gases are happening. And that center is responsible for love, compassion, and also hatred. In fact, Sri Ravi Shankar actually puts it very nicely that the same energy at the heart, which is called the Anahata Chakra, is also responsible for both love and hate and also fear. So as soon as we are afraid, where do we hold our hands? We hold it near our heart, right? We feel intuitively that we have to grasp our heart. Similarly, love. We say love flows from the heart and heart to heart connection. Again, all these terms are actually based in yogic sciences. And then we also say hatred, right? Hatred, which is the negative form, the antagonistic form of love. That is the same love. If it is reversed, it becomes hatred. If it dissipates, it becomes compassion. If it scatters, it becomes compassion. And if it solidifies, it becomes fear. It becomes possessiveness. It becomes insecurity. So all these are at the heart, which is the Vayu chakra. And then finally, the fifth element comes at Vishuddhi, which is the throat, where the thyroid glands are. Uh, so that represents, the Vishuddhi represents all occult and mystic forces. So, like Akasha, so just as we cannot really define properly what Akasha is, we somehow intuitively feel and experience Akasha, but we can't actually explain it. Similarly, is the problem with occults, right? Occultism and mysticism. We somehow can only feel it, but we cannot really describe it. There is no rigid form to it. There is no movement also. That is where the Vishuddhi happens, and that is also called the filter chakra. Literally, Vishuddhi means to filter, which is the origin of speech, vak. And uh, this is the fifth element, which is Akasha. And we also know that sound can be generated only when there is certain space between between particles, and which is why we have the larynx and the pharynx, the two pipes, empty pipes, which has symbolically they have Akasha in them. They have space in them to allow water and food and air to traverse through. So that is the Vishuddhi chakra, the center of space, and therefore Shiva is Bhutalayah. He is the abode of all these five chakras. So he represents each of these five chakras. Yes, Indira ma'am, you have raised your hand.
Sorry for interrupting. That fourth one, that is the heart. Just repeat once.
Yes, it is called the Anahata chakra. Anahata, Anahata, Anahata. It is the center of love, compassion, hatred, and fear. It is the same energy which mutates into these four forms. So at the heart is where even bhakti arises. It is where compassion, love arises. And that element which governs that heart chakra is Vayu, is air. And that is also because we have pulmonary circulation. That is the lungs are present there, and there is the cardiovascular activity, the heart which is pumping out blood and pumping in blood. So all of that is happening, which is very similar to the function of Vayu, which is to carry things from one place to another. Okay, that is Anahata, and then comes the fifth is the Vishuddhi.
Very beautiful, very beautifully.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, Pushpa, ma'am.
Other two chakras also, if you don't mind.
Yeah. Okay. So these are the five bases, I mean, called the elemental chakras from the base up. So Mooladhara, let me just repeat. Mooladhara, Swadhisthana, Manipura, Anahata, Vishuddhi. And the last two are non-elemental, which means aprakritic chakras. So they do not belong to the realm of Prakriti, of nature. These are the physics sixth one comes at the forehead, which is just near the pituitary and the thymus. What is that? What is that gland which is there? Is it thymus? I forget. Which produces melatonin, the sleep hormone. I am not sure, but there is some other gland behind the pituitary, which is also coincidentally at the same place where the Ajna chakra is described to be, which is response. What is it? Pineal gland. Correct, correct. Pineal gland. Thank you. Pineal gland and the pituitary, where these two, now, as all of you may know, the pituitary and the hypothalamus, they govern all hormones. They are the master glands. They control every single function of the body, or they at least instigate each of these functions. Even if the thyroid must produce its hormone, uh, there is a uh, predecessor to that hormone, which is first produced in pituitary, and then that causes a cascading effect, and then the thyroid gets the signal, and then thyroid produces the thyroid hormone. Similarly with the others also. So these centers is like a king because it is issuing orders, and that is verily the name of the chakra, Ajna, to issue orders, to issue a command. Ajna chakra, and that is also the exactly the place of the seat of intelligence, we say, of consciousness, where we, the I, the ego exists, where the mind exists most importantly. So manaha is the governing element of the sixth chakra, which is the Ajna. Mm, yes, there's a question. Indira ma'am, yes ma'am. Is there a question?
I'm sorry, I'm muted. Agnya Chakra, they say that is why, like our ancestors have created this, keeping a kumkum on the forehead that at the Agnya Chakra because it gets stimulated. Is it true?
True, true, ma'am. That's very right. And for the very same reason, all the tilakas, like you exactly are right. The tilakas, vibhuti, all of that is placed on the forehead. Correct. And very significantly, like you described, ma'am, even Devi is shown with the third eye, and of course Shiva also at that very place. So it's the eye of wisdom, eye of knowledge, or eye of intelligence. And at that place, it's the meeting point also of the three most important nadis, which is the Ida, which means the left, the Pingala, which means the right, and the Sushumna, which is the middle. So these three most important nadis of our body, which carry vital fluids, vital prana in them, they finally converge at one last point, which is the Ajna. So they cross over each other at this point. And this is also the point called as in Lalita Sahasranama called the Rudra Granthi. There is a knot at this chakra, uh, kind of a shackle, a chain, which is limiting the energy from going upwards. And that is the final knot. So there are three knots called the Granthis. Knots literally means Granthis, and they are the Brahma Granthi, which is at the Mooladhara, which means the limitations imposed on the material plane. That is the tendency, the very strong tendency to remain bound to the natural creation. Brahma is the creator, of course. So why we call it the Brahma Granthi. To be just as Brahma is so in love with his own creation, with nature, that Brahma Granthi imposes a limitation on on the jiva, on the energy, to stick to the material plane. And that is why uh, it is also very similar to gravity, because earth wants us, and mind you, Brahma Granthi occurs where? At the Mooladhara. And what is the governing element there? Prithvi, earth, gravity. So it pulls us down to remain at the material sphere, which means just sex, sleep, hunger, food, water. So the and exercise, of course. So these are the basal instincts, the carnal desires, uh, and therefore these are the functions of Brahma Granthi. And then comes the Vishnu Granthi again at the between the Manipura and the Swadhisthana, which is the Granthi, the limitation imposed by creativity. So, though one may have risen above their basal instincts, one still would be in the clutches of the traps of lust, greed, jealousy, and confusion. So, these four are present in the Manipura and the Swadhisthana chakras. That is just uh, between the navel and the genitals. So that is called the Vishnu Granthi. Vishnu, of course, is the Lord of sustenance, of procreation, of continuing, and he also sleeps on water. And that is also actually a yogic imagery, because Swadhisthana is governed by water, apas, and he sleeping above it is a very strong, very unmissable metaphor for him being the Vishnu Granthi being present just above the Swadhisthana. Anyway, so after that, final Granthi comes at the Ajna. And these Granthi technically are also the places where the three nadis, these three pipes cross over. So one, they start from the Brahma Granthi, that is the first. Second, they cross over at this Vishnu Granthi, and the third and final, it comes at the Ajna, the forehead, where these three pipes meet, nadis meet. And that is the Rudra Granthi, and Rudra there represents destruction. And what kind of destruction? So, like we have discussed, Vairagya is um, embodied by Shiva. Vairagya, he is a Vairagya Murti, he is Viragi, he is a yogi. And there, and he also has the third eye, right? So you see all these dots are getting connected. And that represent, and he burned down Kama, he burnt desires away. So this destruction, which is from the third eye, which is the Ajna Chakra, represents destruction of all the things which are known. So the destruction of the known, and that includes all theories, all philosophies, all belief systems, all cultures, all values. So that is the final seat of intelligence, right? Thinking, time, space, causation. All these three and all the other manifestations of conceptual ideas come at the Rudra Granthi, the forehead chakra. And once a person has reached this certain state, his levels have risen to that level at the forehead, he becomes very destructive. And not that he will become a criminal or a dacoit, but that he will break down, he'll become a rebel to society, and to himself too, himself or herself. So he will question everything. He will start um, questioning, acting against, and destroying every belief system which is there in himself. So the final leap of faith, therefore, must happen. And then after the Ajna, we say to reach the Sahasrara, there is no path. So from the base, there is a well-defined path through the Sushumna. The Sushumna ends at the Ajna Chakra. So then there is no path ahead. And the Sahasrara is the seventh and the last chakra, which is present just 3 or 4 inches above the head, thus marking that it is completely unnatural, so to speak, or you can say supernatural, and definitely above the realm of mind also. So that Sahasrara is the uh, poetically described as the meeting place of Shiva and Shakti, the two dualities coming together in the supreme merger, the supreme union, and that is also a representation of moksha or kaivalya. Anyhow, at the Ajna, there is no path ahead from Ajna. Therefore, that place is after the Ajna, there is a void, there is a darkness, there is a blank, and that in many of our um, spiritual traditions, and not just in India but across too, that is called the dark night of the soul. In the Christian mystics, and even I think even the Sufi mystics, they say they have experienced this darkness because once all destruction has happened of all belief systems, of all the known, and J. Krishnamurti also says freedom from the known, right? Everything that we know of, everything that we experience completely has been destroyed by Vairagya. So what next is left? We don't know. And so that don't know, that unmanifest thing is the darkness which is spoken of. And it is only said that Ishvara himself, if he chooses, he or she, Devi or Ishvara, if he or she chooses, will allow that energy which is stuck at the Rudra Granthi, at the Ajna, to rise up. And that, therefore, that Jiva is said to have then be liberated. Uh, he or she will have attained the supreme-most Samadhi at the Sahasrara. And in fact, this last step can only happen with the grace of God. And of course, God and Guru are said to be interchangeable. Even Sri Ramakrishna himself, so Totapuri would come to Sri Ramakrishna and say, meditate on the forehead. And he would reach there. But after that, it was only he and Kali. And Kali herself made way for him to reach the Nirguna state, which is in the Sahasrara. So, I mean, we are talking too high, too sophisticated, and too unimaginably tall altitudes and unreachable peaks. Of course, I may myself still be in the Mooladhara, but this is what the the yogic sciences depict as the seven chakras. And Shiva is reveling with his wife, with his spouse, Shakti. That is the Purusha and the Prakriti, they merge together at the Sahasrara, thus representing the complete homogeneity of all dualities and mm, the supreme most unattainable, so to speak, state is represented in the Sahasrara. He, Shiva, is the Bhutalayaha, the abode of all the Bhutas, therefore also the Bhutapatihi, the lord of the Panchabhutas, and Ahoratram Aninditaha. Ahoratram, he is the day and night. He is Aninditaha. He is also the blemishless. He is also one without um, any possible insults. And why is that? Because he is the Akarta, because he does nothing, neither good nor bad. You can't really be blamed for any mistake. Aninditaha. वाहिता सर्वभूतानां निलयश्च विभुर्भवः अमोघः संयतो ह्यश्वो भोजनः प्राणधारणः. He is the Vahita. He is the one who carries us forward. Vahita also means Vayu because Vayu also has this function to carry things. It carries the fragrance, it carries the odor from one place to another. It also carries the sails of the boats and ships forward. It carries the waters through tides, tsunamis. It carries sand from one place to another, causing sand dunes and sandstorms. It, as hurricanes and storms, it even carries away people and houses itself. So he is the Vahita, he is that supreme wind, and he's also the carrier of people. Vahita, Sarva Bhutanam, of all creatures. He is the Vahita, one who carries. Nilayaha, he is the abode. Nilaya. Uh, Nilaya also means complete dissolution. Nilaya, Laya means dissolution. Nilaya means complete dissolution. So, how is that actually? I mean, how did that come to mean a home or a house? Is because once we are exhausted, so when we are at work, we are very rigid. We exert ourselves, we have a particular framework, and we function accordingly. But once we come home, we chuck away with all the framework. There is no more rules. There are no more bosses. There are no more things to be done. So there is complete dissolution of structure of time. So we just lay on the couch and we relax. So that is called Nilaya, the place where we relax. Nilaya is complete dissolution. And that is also the reason why Shiva is told to be Ananda Rupa, because you completely relax. Only the complete relaxation is only possible when all destruction of all structures and all energies has been dissipated. Again, Rudra Granthi. So you see, all of these dots are getting connected. Nilayaha cha Vibhur Bhavaha. He is the Vibhu, he is the Lord, the Creator, and Bhavaha. He is not just the Creator, but also the creation. Bhava means the creation. When we have talked about this repeatedly, God is immanent, he is the universe, he or she is the universe, and it is also beyond the universe. Vibhu Bhava. Amogha. The Mogha means something which is in vain, something which is worthless, waste. Mogha. Amogha, which is wasteless, something which is of supreme value. Amogha. And with this word mogha, it comes to my mind a very nice shloka from Bhagavad Gita. What is that? Moghasha mogha karmano mogha jnana vichetasaha asurim. Mm, and it goes, I forget it. But yeah, moghasha mogha karmanaha. Those, we all of us, he says, I mean, he's actually rebuking us. He says, Moghashaha, we all have worthless waste desires. We are hankering after things which are completely useless, useless from his perspective. For us, we may think it is very worthwhile. But Moghashaha, Mogha karmanaha. And because we have waste, useless desires, we also act upon those desires, and all our actions also turn out to be waste and pointless. Mogha karmanaha. Mogha jnanaha. And as a result of doing actions, we gain some kind of wisdom, street smartness. And that is also waste. He just completely obliterates all the point, the purpose of our lives. He says, Mogha jnanaha. Though we may think we are very wise, we are very experienced in life, that he says that is also mogha jnanaha, completely useless knowledge, useless wisdom. Vichetasaha, and finally with that useless knowledge, they have become vichetasa, they have become utterly deluded and utter fools. And he, in very powerful, very striking words, he shites us. Mogha jnana vichetasaha. But Shiva is therefore the amogha, one who has uh, a very valued, very cherished purpose, and he is not pointless. Amogha, samyataha, he is in control, in completely in self-control. Samyataha, again, it takes us back to his depiction as being the yogi. Samyataha. He Ashwaha, he is also Ashwa. Mm, Again, one other interesting etymology of the word Ashwa. The actual etymology is ashnoti iti ashwaha. That which munches is called an ashwa, because we have seen it always chewing the cud. But the other slightly philosophical interpretation is ashwaha. Shwaha in Sanskritam means tomorrow, means the future. Ashwaha means one who has no future, and not that he is a beggar or he has no future in that sense, but because he is the lord of time, there is no future to him, which means there is no potential for him to change. There is no need for him to change, and there is also nothing in the future which will affect him. So he is Ashwaha. Ashwaha. Bhojanaha. He is the form of our food, which is why we pray to him. We say Brahmarpanam Brahma Havihi. Uh, Brahma, the God, which is the supreme Godhead itself, is the form of the food. We say Annam Brahma. Food is God itself. And Brahmarpanam, this is the offering to Brahma. Brahma Havihi, this is the oblation which is being done to Brahma. Brahmagnav, in the fire of our belly, in our belly, which is the digestive fire, which is also Brahma, which is also God, the vast, the expansive. Brahmagnav, Brahmana Hutam. And who is putting that food into it? It is Brahma itself. It is, though it is me, the Sudarshan, this person, it is actually Brahma itself putting the food, which is Brahma, into the stomach, which is also Brahma, into the fire, which is digesting it, which is also Brahma. Brahmagno Brahmanahutam Brahmaiva Tena Gantavyam. And therefore, what happens to that energy which is digested, which is as a result of that digestion? It energizes the body and the mind and the jiva. And what will he or she do with it? Brahmaiva Tena Gantavyam. Gantavyam means he should go, he should travel, he or she should travel towards that Brahma, that state of Brahma itself, Brahmahood itself. Brahma karma. How should he or she travel? The jiva must travel through Brahma karma samadhina, by doing karma, by doing actions in the state of being Brahma, and by being, by samadhi means when you're not doing an action, in your state of relaxation, also you must be Brahma. So while in action and in inaction, both uh, we must think of ourselves as Brahma. So Brahma karma samadhina. And through that alone can we reach the state of Brahmaiva tena gantavyam. So this is the very powerful, very mystical shloka, and we very casually utter it at the time of eating, but lots of meaning to be unpacked there. Very similar to Purnamadav Purnamidam actually. Anyway, so Bhojana is Shiva. He is the food. And Pranadharanaha, of course, because he is food and food sustains all creatures, he is the sustainer of our pranas. Pranadharanaha. Dhritiman matiman dakshas satkritascha yugadhipaha. गोपालिर्गोपतिर्ग्रामो गोचर्म वसनो हरिः. Dhritiman, most courageous. Dhriti means courage. And again, you see, Samskrita is so beautiful because the very meaning of these words have, and the etymology of these words, they give us so many nice insights into how the meaning came about. So, Dhriti means courage, and it comes from the root word dhr, which means to be fixed, to be stable, to be steadfast. You see, how do we get courage? When we stick to a certain path, when we stick to our principles, when we stick to our values. That is the only way we actually get courage. Even if we think about it very deeply, we will all realize it is actually true, because we may show courage, we may show bravery in trying, all these death rides in Wonderla and all these amusement parks, but that is not actual courage. The actual courage, dhriti, is where we, though we may have things around us, uh, adverse to our cause, adverse to our values, we stick to it, we abide by it, and that is the only place where we have true courage. So similar to mm, Harishchandra, right? Harishchandra, the truth sayer, he did only one thing in his life. He was not a good ruler. He was not a good, I mean, he was a good ruler, but he was not as great an administrator as, let's say today's kings and prime ministers, etc. But he was a moderate king, and he was a good family guy also, but nothing too special. But what made him extraordinary is his courage. And how courage? He didn't go on any death rides. He didn't do bungee jumping. He didn't walk on charcoal or anything. But he stuck to his value, that one single value of being honest. So he is called as Dhritiman. Similarly, Bhishma, though he may have sided with the Kauravas, he still gave the Vishnu Sahasranama, and Krishna himself said, please take the blessings of Bhishma because he's a Dharmatma. Now, what did he do in his life? Yes, he was strong, he was a warrior, but above and beyond that, he is a Dhritiman because he stuck to his single value in his life, which was his brahmacharya. He said he himself castrated to show his love for his father and to keep his vow, to side always with the Kuru clan, with the head of the Kuru clan. So that one vow, that one oath, that one vrata he did gave him that courage, and so much courage that he actually would spar against Parusharama, his own guru, and remain unmatched. And it was Bhishma Pitamaha who fought the entire Kurukshetra war for the first, I think, 11 or 12 days. And the Pandavas had a very tough time with Bhishma being on the other side as the commander in chief. So, the dhriti, that courage in our lives, comes from that singular principle that we say our life is going to be dedicated towards. That is dhriti. And Shiva is that courage which comes when we stick to one singular value at the exclusion of everything else. Dhritiman. And he is Matiman. Now, the very opposite of Dhritiman is a Matiman, one who is too intelligent. You see, when we have too much intelligence with ourselves, when we are too thinking, overthinking, in fact, we actually can't stick to anything. In fact, the people who are less intelligent, and I don't mean it in any arrogant manner, but those who are simpletons, they actually, we find them to be more courageous. These rural people, they climb trees and they do all these sahasas, and they're very simple in life, and that is how they get a lot of courage, because it is simple for them, because they don't have too many distractions in their mind. They don't have too many choices. They don't have too many arguments and reasons to not follow a certain thing. So they just stick to one thing, right? But Mathiman, it is a problem of many urbanites like myself, because we are too educated, too knowledgeable. I mean, not knowledgeable, but too educated. We think a lot, and so we don't actually stick to any one particular value. But he also Shiva. So the saving grace is that Shiva is also of that form, that wisdom which comes in not sticking to anything too, in being a Matiman, in being overly scholarly. Matiman, Dakshaha. He is also very skillful. You see, that Daksha is that middle ground between being a Dhritiman and Matiman. One who is an overthinker and also very lots of information, but cannot stick to anything. The other side, he is a Dhritiman, one who has not much of information, but he just does one thing. He's a doer. The other one is a thinker. So Daksha is one who is the good combination of both. He has 50% Matimata and 50% Dhritimata also. So he is that Daksha. We say he is a Daksha. Satkritaha. Satkrita is one who is honored, one who is revered. Satkritaha, Satkara. Satkritaha cha Yugadhipaha. Just 2 more minutes, Pushpa ma'am. You can just leave after this. Uh,
Thank you.
Yugadhipaha is one who is um the Lord or the master of the yugas, the Chatur yugas, the Kali Yuga, Dwapar Yuga, Treta Yuga, and Satya Yuga. Because he is, of course, the controller of time. He is the Yugadhipa. Gopalihi. Gopali is one who protects the cows. Gopalihi. Again, and we have discussed at length how Shiva actually uh, is in many ways related to Krishna, and we have been discussing a lot of shlokas from Bhagavad Gita too. Maybe some other day we can delve deeper into the commonalities between Shiva and Krishna. But here he is the Gopalihi, he is the cowherd, Gopalihi, Gopatihi. He is the lord of cattle, not just Pashupati, but more so Gopati of cattle in specific. And Gramaha, he is the village itself. Gocharma Vasanaha, he also wears leather. So you see, Gocharma means refers to the skin of cattle, and it is not the cows that we worship. So Go actually also means cattle in general. So buffalo and the other bull skins are worn by Shiva and thus representing the Chandalas. So the Chandalas are said to be the one who would wear leather, and they were in charge of tanning of leather, right? Because they would kill these animals and skin them out and wear those rags. So he represents the Chandala, the marginalized communities of a society, of a grama, of a village, which does wear these things, thus representing uh, that Shiva is not always just Satvika, but he is also all sections of society. Gocharma. In fact, the very popular story of Shiva appearing as Chandala before Adi Shankaracharya in Kashi is very, very well known. Gocharma Vasanaha. Hari is the dissolver. He dissolves us of our responsibilities, of our sins, of punyas even, and takes us to that supreme relaxed state of samadhi of Shivatva itself. You may please carry on, ma'am. So coming back to this, Gopalihi, you see, a herdsman, Gopalihi. There is a very interesting mm, uh, metaphor for these animals. So the four sections of society actually are represented by certain animals, and they are metaphors. So the lowest section, which is lowest in terms of being marginalized, so-called marginalized, because they look after the mundane activities. So the Shudras are said to be represented as tamasic, and they are represented by dogs. And we see these tribals and people always move around with dogs, right? And in fact, Shiva, in his form of Bhairava, also has the Vahana as the dog, the Shunaka. And therefore, representing that the Shudras are equally important, equally to be venerated, and it is also a part of Shiva itself. So that is the first section. The second section is Vaishyas are represented by Gaja. They have slight Rajasic and Tamasic both tendencies in them. So they are represented as Gajas. In fact, even the merchants of ancient India, their wealth was measured in terms of how many Gajas they would have. Because Gaja in today's equivalent would be, the Mercedes because it was very costly back then. Cattle were somehow, you could say, like Omni and Maruti Suzuki, but Gaja is all these BMW and what I don't know, whatever such luxurious cars were there. So anybody who had a Gaja at home, I mean not at home, but if they had in the sheds, it would mean he was very wealthy, very rich. So that is the Vaishyas, the merchants, the traders who were very rich and who supported businesses and they were entrepreneurs. Vaishyas were the Gajas. And then the Kshatriyas were represented by Ashwas, by horses. And they, of course, used horses for warfare and they were for traveling. And Ashwas represented a certain dignity, royalty, and the sense of administration of power. So Ashwas, even the yajna, Ashwamedha yajna, was performed by the Rajas only for power and conquest. Ashwas, and the Brahmanas were represented by the by the cows. In fact, many rishis would have only their cows in their ashramas. One is for nourishment because they would simply depend uh, only on very sattvic food, just milk, some curds, some fruits and vegetables, and that was it. And maybe a few nuts and grains here and there. So a cow represents the sattvic rasa, and they were representing the brahmanas who were also therefore not by jati but by profession and by gunas they were sattvic. So these were the four categories, metaphors of society. And again, one other shloka in Bhagavad Gita. mm, okay, let me just send it across in the group. If anybody knows, in the third adhyaya, he somewhere mentions Gaja, Ashwa, and such. Shuni chaiva shwapake cha pandita samadarshinaha. So he says, I'll give you the purport. So it means Sri Krishna is saying, Pandita, who is a Pandita, who is a knowledge of wise man or woman, is one who sees equally the horse, the gaja, the elephant, the cow, the dog, and the shwapaka, the chandala, one who cooks the dogs. So, because the chandalas were uh, the community which cooked and ate dog meat, so they were called the shwapakas. So he says, uh, one who sees samata, one who sees equanimity in all these four animals is said to be a pandita. Now, these animals literally doesn't mean that he looks at only these cows, dogs, etc., but it actually was a metaphor for the sections of society. So, one who would had a equanimous vision towards and compassion towards all these four because they were dependent on their roles and professions and their gunas were called as the panditas. So, there we can end today's discussion. Yes, Indira ma'am, do you have a question?
I think even in Vishnu Sahasranama you have a line for the four types.
Oh, okay. Uh,
So no, I'm like I know it, but I'm not getting it to.
okay, okay. Anybody else knows that any particular that words?
Just give me 2 seconds. I can get
Yeah,
it up.
sure, sure, ma'am. Sure.
So, Guruji can continue. You want this?
All right, all right.
Can continue.
So that's all for today's discussion. We can open the floor for discussions. Any inputs, any remarks, comments, please. Anything you wish to add or subtract, please go ahead.
So sorry, I didn't get it. I don't want to keep all of you waiting. Maybe in tomorrow's class.
Okay, okay. No worries, ma'am. Anybody else wants to add something to the discussion?
Sorry, namaste, Guruji. I had to leave for a brief few minutes. So I didn't know what was discussed in the last few minutes, but I just wanted to make a couple of points, if I may.
Surely, ma'am, please.
So this is Pramodini. So namaste. So like you were saying, remember earlier, like she was a third eye, the pineal gland. So that is also where modern science says the melatonin is secreted. The hormone for sleeping and all that. That's why they say Surya Namaskara when we do in the morning. The light focusing to that area, and then releases melatonin later in the day and sleep. Also, like serotonin hormone, both are, that's what they say is released from those. That area of the third eye, Agnya chakra. I also wanted to make another point when we were talking about the, seven chakras. There are like various depictions, but it also indicates the color of the, the Vidya, like, the spectrum, seven colors. And each chakra is like like a spinning wheel of energy. Has, starting with the red and going all the way, to like, all the spectrum of colors, seven Indradhanas. And also, they are depicted as like a Padma, right? The Sahasrara is the Sahasra Dala Padma, like a pure white in color, like you were saying. It's above the realm of, like a human mind and all that comes above. So the six. So like each one is like a four petal, the lotus, and like a 6, 8, 16, 32. They are like that. And the last one is Sahasrara. That's why it's called Sahasra. Sahasra Dala Padma. So yeah, they're beautiful. So many, like you said in the Yoga Shastra, so many ways. Each one is described like by the color, the nature, like you were saying, how we love, loves, all these. At least Anahata, passion, hatred, like the Agni. So yeah, just that's what I want to say. Each chakra is depicted in different color, like a lotus, like the petals, the number. So many ways. It's a very beautiful and profound. Reading all those, like learning itself is like, very enlightening. So I wanted to make those points, and you were saying like, Brahma, Pranam, Brahma, Hadi, yeah. Like we are talking about the Jethrasni also in the stomach, in the digestive fire, which removes the ama, the toxins. So that is a way, like you said, everything is Brahman. Everything is like in Samskritam, in Telugu, also we say Annam Parabrahma Swarupam. Like you were saying Annam Brahma, like we say Annam Parabrahma Swarupam. So there's just few points that come to my mind. Also, remember, when you were saying, Shiva Shakti, Soundarya Lahari also starts like that. Shiva Shakti, Yukta, Prabhavitum, that, and then even Shivananda Lahari. And like when India, like Bharat landed on the moon, that's what they, put the name of Shiva Shakti. So they are not separable, inseparable, like you were saying, him or her, they are together, Arthanarishwara. So I just, listening to you, listening to this, few things come to my mind. So I just wanted to share those. Dhanyavada.
Dhanyavada. It's so supremely fascinating. In fact, that Shiva Shakti point, actually, that's true. In Chandrayaan, that's very so significant. Thank you.
That's why Pradhan Mantri, that
Correct.
Brahmanari, Vishnunari. Everything is like you are saying, each one. When I didn't think of it like that. Swaha, just comes in my mind. But when you said Na Swaha, like no beginning, no end, no tomorrow, no today, shall continue of time and space. So it's like, Shiva is my favorite God. It's so profound, every word, everything. And the way you're explaining, I'm so grateful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. It's all your inputs are really so valuable. Thank you. Very nice. Anybody else wants to add to this discussion? Please feel free. I mean, because yes, Bhavani, ma'am, please go ahead.
to add at all. I just wanted to just mention that the shloka that you have mentioned is, I was just looking, so that is 5.18, chapter 5 of Bhagavad Gita, that the learned ones look with equanimity on a Brahmana endowed with learning and humility, a cow, an elephant, and even a dog, as well as the eater of dog's meat. Gavi hastine shuni chaiva shwapake cha pandita samadarshinaha.
Wow. Okay, beautiful.
That's what you nice. Okay, that's all I
Correct.
Yeah, that's a very profound one. Yes.
Right. So Samadarshitva, the equanimous vision, again also takes us to the Ajna Chakra because that is the place, a single-eyed chakra. So in fact, the yogic depiction is that the Ajna Chakra has only one petal. So that is the vision of the eye of equanimity. That's so interesting. And whereas the other chakras have many petals, like multi-petal, like there are 4, 6, 16, and so on. Whereas the Ajna has only a single, it's a single petal flower. Very interesting. And again, Tumbe, which we talked about yesterday, the Bakula Pushpa, also is a single petaled flower. So maybe there is some correlation there. And that is the favorite of Shiva, that Tumbe, of Bakula Pushpa. Okay. Very interesting. Thank you, ma'am. Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane. Correct. Anybody else would like to add? Anything else? No, good. Yes.
Yeah, I just want to say, yeah, when you say, like so many things come to my mind because I have been doing this, Shravana Marana Nidhyasana for the last, few years. Bhaja Govindam came to my mind when you were talking about Amoha. It's not the same, but the Moha, Buddha Moha.
Oh, yeah. That's so interesting. Correct.
And also like Bhavita said, yeah, say like everything is we don't know what other things, but our eternal, Sanatana, no beginning, no end. So we find references to one thing in so many things, so many places, and they all say the same thing, no contradiction, a lot of times. So that's what is really I love all this, learn so much more.
Absolutely, ma'am.
Same concepts in so many areas. So
Exactly.
Authors different times, like it's a continuum. It's not like they're written by one person in one time. So,
Correct.
yeah.
And in fact, I mean, you have made such a very nice observation because actually, like technically, the etymology of Mudhamate and Moha actually is from the same dhatu which makes up Mogha also, which is from Muh, M-U-H, Muh. And so uh, technically also they're all related. That's very interesting.
Yes. Yeah. That's why when you said that, I was like, going there. But all these, once you know things like yesterday, I was saying about Dakshinamurti Stotram, Vishadev Avarovira. Like I said, everything is interlinked. There is no, so once you know something, it's like, oh, it's here, it's there, it's the same thing, So many concepts, but it's the same. Uniformity is there. That's what I mean,
Correct.
It's like you go into so many, I'm learning this, the Prakana Grantha now in all the Bhagavad Gita and all this. So, yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's so fascinating that, oh my God, every day something learning new,
Correct.
It's very, very, very extremely rich culture. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. Dhanyavad. Anybody else wants to comment? Otherwise, we can wrap up. Okay, Indra ma'am, if you do find that shloka, please do post it on the group. We would all love to see that being depicted there also. Okay, ma'am.
Sir, you were telling about the story Shiva appeared in front of Shankaracharya. What was that story telling?
So the story goes like this. Adi Shankaracharya was directed by his guru Govindapada to write a bhashya on the Brahma Sutras. So these are a corpus of very mystical, very hard to decipher, abstruse aphorisms of sutras of just coded words, keywords as we call them, coded words, which needs to be expounded upon, which needs to be you know exposed, so to speak, to the wider audience of scholars itself. And believe me, the Brahma Sutras are so themselves abstruse that even the Bhashya, though is supposed to be an explanation of the sutra, decoding of the sutras, they are themselves also very abstruse. So even to the greatest of scholars, it seems very scholarly, that Bhashya which he has written. And that is the way philosophy actually is. Lots of jargon, lots of uh, hair splitting arguments, and so on. But anyway, that is a humongous task that he had to undertake, and for which he was directed to come to Kashi to first take the blessings of Kashi Vishwanatha and Annapurna Devi. Uh, because again, if you remember, Muladhara is food, and Anna is food. So unless we have the blessings of Annapurna, no philosophy will come to our. I mean, it makes sense, right? Because if we have to come to our class, even for any philosophical class, our stomachs must first be filled. Udara nimittam. Once our stomachs are filled, only then can we even begin to think of philosophy and such. So Annapurna is that goddess, thus representing the Mooladhara, that is where the energy originates from. So she is that. And so he came actually to prostrate before Annapurna. And of course also Shiva, because he is the Adi Guru. And while he came to Kashi, he had his disciples around him. And as is the case with any sannyasi, he would take the bath very early in the morning when people would not look at it. So you're not supposed to bathe. The sannyasis are not supposed to bathe in front of people, excepting very exceptional situations like Kumbh Mela and such. Um, so they went early in the morning and they had their bath in the Ganga. While coming back, there was this person, this Shwapaka, which means one who cooks meat of dogs. So they are said to be the Chandalas. They would wear such rags, gocharma. They would wear the skin of of cattle. Again, mind you, that is a blasphemy in Hinduism at least, because traditionally a cow must not be killed. And though they would not kill the actual worshipping cows, they would kill the cattle, like the other relatives of that actual breed of cows. Still, they were considered unholy, apavitra, because they would engage in meat, in drugs, in fish, and they would smell. They would not bathe properly, and they would wear these leathers, and they would beg for food, and they would eat dog meat. Again, even in today's society, eating a dog, which what we call as a pet, itself is so blasphemous. Just imagine of that century of some 700 ADs where even killing a dog was considered to be a greatest sin. And so they were such a community. So he came before this Shankaracharya, with a ale of drink in his hand, and you know a lady beside him, and dogs around him, and wearing these rags. He just came before him. And he stood before Adi Shankaracharya on his way. He obstructed the path to go back to his ashrama, a kutira which he had made near Kashi. So one of his disciples say, "Move away, give way to our guru because he has to go up." He did not budge. So Adi Shankara again repeated and said, "Give us the way. We have to proceed." Now he did not budge again. And so he got angry. Adi Shankaracharya got angry and he said, uh, "Move aside right now, okay? Or else." And he stopped there. And seeing the sannyasi get angry, this very young sannyasi get angry, the Chandala actually smiled and said, "I will definitely give way, O Maharaj. But first tell me what should move aside? Is it my body which should move aside? Or is it my mind? Or is it my soul, the Atma, which should move aside?" And he says, and just this very statement coming from a Chandala uh, was itself very astonishing, very bewildering. And to add salt, no, salt to injury, insult to injury, as they say, he said, okay, you have set out to, you have understood the Brahma Sutras and now you want to comment upon them. Tell me one thing. How can the body move if both yours and my body is just the soil, is just the Anna? And this is the Kshetra of Annapurna. So does Annapurna serve different food to you and different food to me? So that was kind of the theme of his question. Thus implying that though you maybe a very pious monk, both our bodies are equally disgusting. Both of our bodies have the same composition of muscle, of rathas, of urine and blood and sweat and all of that. So, do you want this body to move because that body of yours is more holy? Is that why? And second, he says, okay, let me say you didn't want the body to move, but you wanted the mind to move. Tell me one thing, is the mind also not an accumulation? Is the mind not an accumulation of thought, of information, of emotions? Are they different from mine? Is yours different from mine? Do you not have all the very same emotions of grief, anger, jealousy, and which so apparently is now evident on your face, your anger? So do you want me? And you are actually disgusted. You have a disgusted look on your face. So are those emotions also not the same with me? So do you want my mind, which is a collection of these accumulation of these emotions and information to move and this memory to move? Or, and he continues, do you want Shiva in me, which is the Atma, the soul in me to move? Because if that is what you meant, you are the greatest fool because though you may have studied the Brahma Sutras and you want to comment on them, you do not maybe perhaps not realize that Shiva cannot be moved. He is the sthira. You see how that also makes sense? He is the unmovable because he is omnipresent. Can you really move water of an ocean, right? Because even if you were to swirl the water, it would just, it is just water itself, which has pervaded the entirety of the ocean. So Shiva, Vishwanatha, the Lord of the universe, has pervaded everywhere. So can you really want, are you so great enough to ask me, and am I so strong enough to ask Shiva in me, the soul in me, to move? And with these barrage of questions, Adi Shankaracharya was so dumbstruck and he actually fell flat before him. He held his feet and he asked for his forgiveness for his insolence. And he said, I realize my mistake. Um, for having misspoken and having not been a pandita, you see, because he did not have samadarshitva, he did not have equanimity, at least for a lapse of his judgment for that particular time. Uh, his previous samskaras of being pure, of being a monk, of being a brahmachari, all of that may have slightly contributed to his ego, momentarily though, but still. So he admits to his fault and he actually composes five, I think five verses called the Manisha Panchakam. Manisha means, oh wise man. Manisha means a wise man. Manisha Panchakam, which means, and in that he actually describes how uh, the very philosophy that this Chandala spoke, he elaborates on that and he says finally, Chandalostu satudvijostu guru rityesha manisha mama. So my manisha, my conviction now is that Chandalostu satudvijaha astu. May he be a Chandala or may he be a Brahmana, a very learned man, but still if he or she can speak such great wisdom, such wisdom if he has propounded, then Guruhu Ityesha. He or she is definitely my Guru. And I have no qualms in admitting to my fault and being the Shishya of such a great Guru. So this incident reveals two things. One is his humility, Adi Shankaracharya's humility to admit to his mistake, though having been himself an avatar of Shiva. And in fact, the Chandala also was himself Vishwanatha, Rudra, Shiva himself coming in this form, this Gocharma Vasanaha. And so Adi Shankaracharya also admits to his fault. And secondly, this was a very nice incident. And such incidents do happen in the lives of the avatars where they seemingly have erred and it is only human to err. and it actually makes us more relevant, I mean, it makes them more relatable to us, because if everything is very perfect about a particular person, right, then we will just put him on a pedestal up and say, yeah, this is because this was an avatara, this was a very great man or woman, so I have nothing to do but to just do puja to him. I have nothing else to do with him. That is not the right attitude. That is good as a beginner. But secondly, when we want to emulate these avatars, or at least draw inspiration from them, it must be that yes, we honor them, we revere them. But if these small mistakes in their lives actually makes them more relatable to us, makes them more human to us. So by humanizing these characters, these avatars, it is actually a great service being done to us laymen, laywomen also, so that we are able to recognize our own faults and see that yes, they also have done have committed mistakes. So it is, and we also draw inspiration from how they rectified their mistakes, their errors, their lapses in judgment, and we also try to do the same. So that these are the two motives behind this story. Thank you, Dhanyavad. Any other question? Yes.
I don't have a question, but I just wanted to add, yeah, Manisha Panchakam. They say actually it was Shiva himself with 4 dogs at his side, like 4 Vedas.
Hmm.
Then, yeah, they said Shiksha said gacha gacha, like move, something.
Correct.
So then, yeah, like you said, exactly right. Like, 3, like the body, manas, mind, and then the atma, everything is the same in all of us. So how am I different from you? So, and the other thing when you said like that thing says that Dvija is like a second part, 1 second.
Correct.
By Atma Jnana. Yeah, that's what, like, I mean, not just Brahmana, right? That's what it means. Anybody who attains that kind of knowledge is like kind of is born again. So that's called Dvija, second part.
Oh, fantastic. Correct. Correct. I didn't realize that. Correct. Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Shankaracharya gave us so many, like, I mean, gems actually, not just one, so many. Saundarya Lahari, Shivananda Lahari, Bhaja Govindam, it's all these small, Nirvana Shatkam, Nirvana Darshakam, Eka Slok,
Correct.
Viveka Chudamani, and like it's never not like ending, So beautifully explained, and yeah, thank you so much.
Dhanyavad. Thank you so much. It's my honor. Astu, let's wrap up. Om Namah Shivaya. We will meet tomorrow, same time, 7 o'clock. Please come prepared. I will be asking a few shlokas here and there. I hope, and this is only with the purpose that you guys keep in touch with the Shiva Sahasranama and not just merely on the meanings. Yes, of course, the meanings are important, but so is also the shlokas. You see, Chando and Vyakarana. So it's important to recite also and also understand them. Astu. Dhanyavadaha. Om Namah Shivaya.
Very, very, very interesting. Thank you so much. You're very enlightening. Minds are getting illuminated.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. It's my honor.
Because all others who are sharing inputs, okay, and adding on, that also is definitely expanding our knowledge. And yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. And it's great that you stayed back after 8 o'clock also.
Something, I kept my mobile, of course, it was volume was low, and then I